Okay, so we're in the airport, right? So you're gonna hear all sorts of noises, right? But when I'm done recording, I'm going to like remove it with like there's this tool on the internet I found, this AI tool that can like separate voices. So I'm going to like clear it off. So I'm in Atlanta, right? By the airport in Atlanta, like I said, I'm going to Lagos. I'm going to feed the transcript to ChatGPT. So this is like a ChatGPT version to like just tell me essentially what it thinks about the story and the whole nine. So when I was flying today from Atlanta to from Cancun to Atlanta, right? God gave me like the story. Just put it in my head. Yeah? Right. So the story is called Assistant Lifeguards, right? Assistant Lifeguards. Lifeguards now build that rescue people, right? But this was like Assistant Lifeguards. So I'll just give like the framework of the story, like scaffolding of it, right? And then maybe when I'm in like a quiet place, we can like tell the full story. So essentially the story is about it has nothing to do with lifeguards, by the way. Spoiler. So essentially the story is about a girl. Let me just start it. There's this girl, yeah, let's say her name is Daphne, right? She's in high school, right? It's her prom, right? So she has this like prom date that she has been like dating through high school essentially. And then the guy at prom proposes to her, and then they're very young, but they get married anyways. So they actually get married. And then she starts preparing for the, in quotes, like wedding, right? Start preparing for the wedding, right? Okay, cool. Then she decides to invite she hires a photographer that is like a namesake. She finds this photographer in a town, in a small town, midtown actually, that is a namesake, right? Sorry, it's a birthday mate. They have the same birthday. They have the same they were born in the same year, born in the same day. Yeah, birthday mate essentially. So she has the photographer. So let's say this photographer's name is drumroll Lisa, because that's what I call all my characters, right? Okay, cool. So for the guy's name is Lisa. So Lisa comes in, the wedding is successful, the whole nine. She takes all the photographs. Okay, fast forward 2 years into the future. Yeah. The marriage is on rocks essentially. So Daphne and her husband, they're like they're fighting now essentially and about to get a divorce because her husband has like, let's say, drinking problems. Okay, cool. So there's like this whole issue of domestic violence, right? So Daphne's boyfriend's husband gets arrested, and they're at the police station, and they're taking mug shots, and then surprise, guess who is called on to take a mug shot? Lisa, the same girl that like took their wedding photos, right? So so essentially Daphne meets like Lisa again, and then they hit it off essentially, and they became like I'll say a couple-ish, right? So to get over the whole divorce spiel, right, Lisa Daphne decides to go to like Japan to pick up like a teaching job. And by the way, everything here is happening in 2011. This is like prime 2011, right? So she goes to Japan in 2011, right? So Japan in 2011, she picks up this like teaching job. She goes with like Lisa, by the way, because Lisa is a photographer, right? And Japan is like a photographer's mecca, if you will. So then in Japan, they spent like 2 weeks now, and then boom, in 2011 there was this like tsunami in Japan, right, in Fukushima. So then Fukushima, Japan, right, and then this tsunami hits them, right? You know that thing this guy said? Was it Didi? He said, I got waves on my head like a tsunami hit it. Okay. So then in Japan, Daphne is like in charge of this school in Fukushima village where all the kids are. Where all the kids are essentially. So essentially, so on the last day, right, they're supposed to have like this like class photograph, right? And then because like our girlfriend is there, what's her name now? Lisa is there, right? She calls on Lisa to like take the photograph, right? So Lisa takes the photograph, but while they're taking the photograph, essentially the tsunami starts essentially. So they have to like they have to like pack all the kids into like a school bus, pack them like sardines into a school bus, and then they drive them off to this like in the town, right? In Fukushima, there's like you know how like a lot of towns have like this reservoir, like this very tall reservoir. Is a very common thing in a lot of like American towns, right? So when I was in Mississippi, for instance, right, they had like this, they had like this blue, you could see it from anywhere in the town. It was so tall, right? Even like in the quarters that I grew up in Nigeria, right, we had like this reservoir that had this very brutalist like architecture. It was crazy. It was really nice. I didn't really like appreciate it when I was growing up, but now anytime I think of it, I was like, and that thing was like, I don't know, it was giving Tower of Babel. It was like 200 feet tall or something, very very tall. Okay, so something like that, right? So they had it. So Daphne and Lisa like packed all the kids and then they drove them to the tower, right? So you know I said that Lisa is like a photographer, right? So luckily the reservoir is like, it was empty. It wasn't very functional, so it was dry and empty. So they stayed at the top of it essentially. Okay, so they stayed at the top of the reservoir, right? So by the way, just in case you haven't noticed, right, this is like a Noah story, like tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. But we get there, right? Okay, cool. Now, you know, Daphne's like girlfriend is a photographer, Lisa, right? And photographers have this thing called like drones, right? That they use to take aerial photographs, right? So essentially, the kids are kind of like safe in the tsunami. They are safe from the tsunami in the reservoir, right? Okay, cool. With two supervisors, essentially, Daphne and Lisa. Now, Lisa is a photographer, so she has a drone. And then there's this shop in Fukushima that's like a 11-story building. It's like a mall, but it's like an 11-story building mall, right? So Lisa uses a drone to literally, this is like literally, right, to shoplift from that mall, right? You know, the whole town is flooded, so they can't come down, right? So she uses a drone to like shoplift from that mall, essentially, to like, she builds this little ramp, like this little attachment to it that she could use to like scoop stuff up, right? So she broke one of the windows of the mall with the drone, and then she would like fly inside and then pick stuff and then fly back to their reservoir. So she did that, and it was like, and so she got blankets for all the kids. She got like food for all the kids from the mall, right? It was almost like, so essentially the gist is like, while the whole city was like upside down inside the flood, right, they were like having like the kids in the reservoir, right, they were like having like a swell time. It was like the best time of their life. Just classic, like I said, it's a retelling of like Noah's like story. It's just like really twisted, right? You know how Noah and his family, they were enjoying and everybody was perishing, something like that. So essentially that's what happened. And then let me just cut the whole story short. This is like a scaffolding, like I said. So that goes on for a while, and then eventually, of course, the flood, the tsunami subsides, and then the city kind of like goes back to normal. And then there are all these rescue efforts because it made international news, you get. So Lisa discovers that she's not really into Daphne discovers that she's not into Lisa like that, and what she's right into is charity work. You know, she's like into like volunteering, so she decides to volunteer for one of the relief. You know, when there's like a flood or a tsunami, there are all these like relief. There's relief efforts, right? So one of the organizations that was doing relief efforts in Fukushima, right? She decides to like volunteer for one of them, right? And then Lisa, on the other hand, because like I said, she's a photographer, and they were in this tower, and in this like reservoir, you can see like the whole city. So she took a lot of like very amazing photos. She literally filmed the tsunami live, right? So yeah, she had all these like very amazing shots. So in the end, she ends up winning like photograph. You know, on Splash, right? Photographers have this like photograph of the year award or something like that. So her shot was like one of like the photographs of the year, and then essentially her photographic career like skyrocketed. So everybody kind of wins, right? Everybody wins. Lisa wins. She becomes like this celebrated photographer. Daphne wins. not only did she like rescue the kids like Noah style, but she also like gets to work with like all our like UNICEF, all these like I don't know organizations, and then the kids win because they had like a swell time while the whole like town was going under. I think the only villain here would be like Daphne's her husband, but you know every story has to have a bad guy, so that's the sacrificial lamb. So that's scaffolding. So yeah. I will just plug this to ChatGPT, and then I'll ask you what he thinks and the whole nine. Bye bye. So it was God that gave me from Cancun. When I was signed from Cancun, he just told me the full story. Okay, so it's called Assistant Lifeguards. Right? They're not like life. You know, lifeguards are like people that save people from water. Right? So it's like something like that, but they're not like trained lifeguards. They're like assistant lifeguards. Yep. The end.